Okay, so right now I'm just with Lola. I'm taking her for a rough board neighborhood run, and it's just her today because she needs to burn a lot of energy. It's a little warm. The other dogs would do fine as well, but because she's got extra energy to burn, she is getting some special attention. She's getting her own runs in that are super fast. We are flying, literally. This controls her impulses and cuts down her excess energy, for lack of a better description. And I tell everybody, a lot of people ask me, what do I do? My Husky's so hyper and digging holes and doing all kinds of stuff, and I just can't control it. Well, one of the first things you do is got to knock off the excess energy. I mean, even before you train them or start to train them. Now, she's already learned some of the commands. She's not quite ready for free ranging yet, but she's getting close. And there's some of the most important commands. Recall, stay, and to plots, to lay down like she's doing now. Now, she did that on her own, but she should be able to do it on command. And, of course, no, and a couple other training commands are all they need. But before you attempt to do those, the best way is to neutralize their energy, because with the amount of energy a Husky has, it's really hard for them to focus. They are aloof. So for them to focus, especially when you start to train them, cutting that energy down is going to be a big plus and make things a lot easier, make them more apt to cooperate and to learn some training commands. But as they get their energy and they learn about sowing their wild oats, they're then able to focus more on your commands. That intensity that you see them looking at a squirrel or a bird or any other animal, they'll focus that on you when they're taught properly. So, and when they can expel that energy, and it becomes a habitual. You don't have to necessarily expend their energy every day once you've got them comfortable, because they get into a routine, and if it's every other day, whatever, and they learn about that and they understand it, they become accustomed to it, then they're a lot easier to train at all times and to listen to commands at all times. So we're in here about 1.25 miles now. We're probably going to do another 3 or 4 miles. The first part of our journey today, and I'll release the video in a bit once we get it edited and everything, make it look nice for everybody. You'll see she sprinted, and I burned off her sprinting energy right now, so now she's just kind of trotting on the ride, and she might recuperate some. I mean, the recovery time's really incredible for a Husky. Remember, they don't burn fat stores like we do, like humans do. Their metabolism, they can actually control it. Now, they don't make a conscientious effort. It does it automatically, but that's what enables them to have all the energy they do and have quick recovery times. They can run up to 100 miles per day if they're trained and conditions are right. If they're conditioned properly, and if conditions are right, temperature, weather, etc. So there's a lot to know and a lot to understand, and that's why a lot of times people will look at something like I'm doing and say, oh, why are you making the dog pull? First of all, the dog's not pulling. We're just doing this for simply running, trotting, and cardio purposes. The dog can pull, and Huskies want to pull. And if they don't get the proper exercise regimen, such as I'm doing here, they will be problematic and troublesome. And that's why they're becoming one of the most abandoned dogs or surrender dogs. So please, it's important for everybody to understand a Husky needs an energy outlet. And there's different ways to do it. They're different than other breeds. They don't like to play fetch, at least not to the point where they're going to burn up any real energy. They're not necessarily, some will swim, but they're not necessarily, most of them are not the swimming kind. But they love to run, and if you can find creative ways where you can manage their running, such as tether them to a scooter, a bike, a moving vehicle, of course not a car, but something like we use for transportation, you know, in the neighborhood, or for exercise for ourselves, they become a great partner with you, and they get to get their running in, which is most important. So that's where we're at right now, and I'll be back at you soon. Okay, so we're at about 3 miles right now, and you're looking at Lola, checking her paws to see if they're hot, and they're not hot at all. Checking her ears, that's another spot where you can feel if they're hot. Not hot at all. She be a happy camper. See that tongue hanging over the side? They say that's the closest thing you can get to a dog smiling. Obviously dogs do smile, but this is I don't know, more proof of it maybe. That's what some say. She's got her water bowl in front of her. She's hydrated well. You're looking at the rough board scooter. Got 2 batteries on, because don't know if I'll run out. I only have myself here today, so there's no saving me. If something breaks, I'll have to walk back home myself. I got a cool camera rig working. You can check the video out later. And the male woman today is approaching. So we're just finishing up about 4.5 miles. Lola's getting in for a cool down. Now, some of you asked me about how to get your dog into water. Mostly you have swimming pools, some people do have ponds. Water is a great way for them to cool down. And actually, Lola wasn't so, I guess, ready to go into the water until she saw her brothers go. So a lot of times dogs learn through other dogs. So I kind of coaxed her into it somewhat, but I knew that when she did some running with the dogs, today she wasn't with her brothers, but when she is, we cool them down the same way, and they get into the pond, and she saw them, she's like, oh, that doesn't hurt you? Oh, okay, I like it. So the main thing here, getting into any kind of body of water, or just getting their paws wet, is really awesome, because their paws are where they emit heat from. That's why I was feeling them before. And when you can submerge them in water, that really helps to cool them down. You can see how the goldfish do. And the goldfish are not scared of the dogs, because the dogs don't do anything to them. A lot of these fish I grew from young. There are a couple butterfly koi. There's a dark one, and yin and yang we call them, the yellow one. And they're always together, and they look like yin and yang. Now she is on a leash. My yard here, this part of it is electric fence, which she's not on yet. Don't want to teach her too much at one time, because I train her with an e-collar also. So just to keep her mind as focused on one thing, I want to train her the e-collar, then I'll train her the electric fence. The boys aren't on the invisible fence. Princess was, but there's no need for them to be. That part of the yard they live in is fenced in, but quite frankly, it's not fenced in well enough for Huskies, but it works for them because I taught them at a young age. They expend their energy, and they go back there to rest and to play when they want, but they've never attempted to breach the fence there. It's only a 5-foot fence. I mean, to keep Huskies in, you should have a minimal of 8 foot, but I've never had a problem. So I figured if I do it, there's an invisible fence that I can turn on. If I do have a problem, I could put it on always, but they're almost 10 years old, and it's worked really well this way. I wouldn't advise it unless you're really active with your dogs like I am, and you can allow them a lot of off-leash time, such as when I free range them, because that really lets them sow their wild oats. And quite frankly, they like being back in the yard and resting and knowing they're safe back there, because there's a fence surrounding them that other animals can't do anything. It's just instinct. So that's where we're at right now, folks. It couldn't be any better than this. I'm going to let Lola stay in here until she's done. That means she's cooled off enough to get out, and we just chill till then. She's shaking it off now.